This episode is sponsored by City Theater. City Theater, providing bold new plays on the south side of Pittsburgh. They have parking available, accessible performances, including pay what you want performances, and you can find them at citytheatercompany.org. Here's what they have coming up for the 2025-2026 season. First up, we have a national new play network rolling world premiere, Another Kind of Silence by L.M. Feldman, directed by Kim Wield. That is running September 20th through October 12th. Then we have Louisa May Alcott's Little Women by Ryan Gunderson, directed by Kaja Dune, November 15th through December 7th. After that, Malcolm X and Red Fox Washing Dishes at Jimmy's Chicken Shack in Harlem by Jonathan Norton, directed by Dexter J. Singleton. That's at January 17th through February 8th. And then Eureka Day by Jonathan Spector, directed by Aldi Mansour, March 7th through the 29th. This one I'm so excited for, the special event, Second City, Laugh Harder, Not Smarter, from April 9th through the 18th of 2026. It is a celebration of legendary American comedy 65 years in the making, featuring a hilarious array of classic sketch comedy and songs from the company's rich history, fresh new favorites, as well as the signature brand of irreverent improv that Second City is famous for. I love improv. I cannot wait for this to come. Last but certainly not least is Hedvig and the Angry Inch. Text by John Cameron Mitchell. Music and lyrics by Stephen Trask. Directed by Robert Ramirez. May 2nd through June 7th. Everyone, mark your calendars and head to citytheater.org. Grab your tickets because I'm sure they're going to be going fast. I just wanted to go and record this podcast because I just got off day 2 of my Awakening the Wild Soul masterclass, and it's been wild, so to speak. It has been such a ride, and I just honestly wanted to shoot the shit with you guys, to you all, and just tell you like how delicious it feels to be hosting this masterclass and the reasons why. So the reasons why this feels really, really good to me and why I chose the name, The Awakening the Wild Soul, is because I realized for the past however many years that I had lost pieces of myself. Like I had lost myself after grief, after loss, after all of these things. I lost bits of who I was or who I am. I couldn't remember them. I couldn't remember those bits. Those bits became really fuzzy and shady, and I couldn't even make decisions. So what I really wanted to talk about today was a reflection and a remembrance, because that's what this masterclass is. It's a remembrance to those that are in it of who they are, right? Of like this remembering. And so I wanted to come here and speak to all of my listeners to talk about where I was and where I am now. And honestly, that feels a bit fucking scary to do. I'm not gonna lie. That feels weird to do. It doesn't feel curated at all. It feels fucking just raw a bit. And I think I'm inspired a little bit, reformed and inspired a bit by Mark Maron and like his closing of his podcast, because it really made me contemplate and reflect of my reasons for starting this podcast, and then my reasons for keeping it, and how it has been kind of that vehicle of self-discovery for me. And so in this masterclass, this day 2 of this masterclass, Awakening the Wild Soul, I taught a portion of class about grief, because of course I did, because I talk about grief all the time. I work with people that are grieving and coming alive again after loss and finding themselves again. and thriving and accessing their gifts and communication and living their best lives, all of that. It's juicy. I love it. And in this module, I talked about how our losses define us, how they are kind of like the gateway of cracking open. They're the gateway of expanded consciousness. They are the gateway of awareness, because without awareness, there's no change. Like, we have to be aware of something to change something. And if we are not aware, it doesn't change. And this awareness comes from, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, these moments in our life that kind of define us, these losses in our life that kind of define us. And some of my losses have been, that very first betrayal of self. Or, some of my losses have been heartbreak, that big first heartbreak that you had that you felt like you would never be able to pick up the pieces. Some of my losses have been, a loss of even loving myself, I will say, very honestly, of loving my body most of all, like feeling betrayed by my body. When I was little, I ballooned up and I got pretty heavy, and then I worked out, and I worked out with my sister, and she was doing this new stretching thing, and it was cool. And I think it was like 1993. But I started to move more, and I lost a little bit of weight, and I felt more like myself. I felt more connected to my body, right? Going into high school a bit. But then later, when I met Phil, I ballooned up to like over 200 pounds. So it was this loss of this betrayal of my body again, it felt like, and not recognizing myself in a mirror and not fully loving myself either. Like, really a lot of self-judgment, a lot of self-criticism, a lot of like just beating myself up. And then a lot of pushing to get skinny, to get, tiny, right? Like, I wanted to fit in those jeans again. So there was that loss. And then there was the loss of mobility. I got in a car accident, and I was on such a momentum to get skinny and pushing myself and doing all of the things and drinking the bottles of wine, doing the Weight Watchers, saving the points for my bottles of wine, but also not eating a lot and working out 6 days a week, sometimes twice a week, pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And then, of course, life gives you a circumstance to slow down. And that happened in my car accident. And that car accident allowed me to go inward more. It removed a huge part of the ego that had been built up at that point. And it stripped it away. Like, I couldn't move without pain. I couldn't do, and I had just entered my yoga certification. I remember this was like the beginning of 19. I was feeling pretty good, and I still went through with it, but I couldn't do any of the things that I was so proud of myself and like pushed myself to do, like the headstands, the handstands, like all of that stuff that I was in such competition with myself and everybody else in the room. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And that felt lack. Like, I felt a little broken, pretty broken, when you can't move without pain. And then, of course, what do you do then? You go into your head. And then when you go into your head, what do you have if you can't move without pain? You have a lot of meditation. So I was already meditating. I studied transcendental meditation. I was studying Buddhist meditation, loving kindness, and all of those different things. But this allowed me to even go deeper into that. And that really cracked open, because meditation is the act of like that, practicing that witness consciousness, that awareness, that opening it through stillness. And that really catapulted my journey, that loss. That was a really deep one. And I don't think about it a lot. It was so interesting, but I'm so grateful to it now. And after that was, my relationship with alcohol started to shift. And then Nina, my sister Nina, Louise, Napoleon, got diagnosed with cancer, and during COVID, which was already a loss for so many of us, like our loss of freedom, truly, and connection, a big part of that. But like after Neen died and she got sick, and through that, that was really one of the biggest cracking opens that I've ever had. And then on top of that, in the middle of it, I decided to give up alcohol. So that was on top of that, you remove the thing that keeps you numb. But a big part of what I was talking about today in this masterclass was the beauty of the grief, the beauty of the opening of it. Even if I couldn't see it then, like I couldn't see it then because I was in it. It's like trying to see the light when you're in the void, when you're in the contraction, when you're in that space of restlessness, and that space where everything's kind of like shook and shaken, and doubt and lack come in, and sorrow is like, you're up to your fingertips, and it's overwhelming. Grief in those spaces, I couldn't see in hindsight the deep beauty and the necessity of loss, the understanding of life, death, and rebirth. I was just fucking pissed, and I was just angry, and I was just hurt, and I was just missing my sister so deeply, so deeply. And now I see so much of grief as a teacher, and that's how I work with individuals. That's like in my work, that's what I do, like to help people move forward so that they can see and be the leaders of their life, to find their power again, their light, their joy, their gifts, that connection again to spirit, to body. That grief is a teacher. Like learning to sit with the ache of the endings and how beautiful the endings are, and allowing grief to open you, not close you, to open the heart, to allow the loss of something to let you see the beauty of life, and the fact that we won't be here forever, the fact that our parents won't be here forever, the fact that our husbands won't be here forever, our friends, our dogs. Like it's this beautiful, beautiful life, death, rebirth, divine feminine as the, creator of all of it, embracing the natural and challenging cycles of life. And I spoke today about the phoenix energy and the ability to be like consumed by flames and then reborn from the ashes, and how it serves as such a powerful metaphor in this idea of change and transformation. And it speaks to me deeply. And I think it spoke to the people that came to the masterclass. And God, every time I teach something like this, I learn so much more. Like a new layer of depth gets added to that, like a new layer of depth, because where I am now in my life is, and if you're listening to this, let me know if you relate to this, but it's this idea where like there, when you first have a big breakthrough, this is the best way to put it. When you first have a big breakthrough, it's like this big aha moment and it feels big. But then you have another one and another one and another one and another one. And sooner or later, they don't become as big. And when they don't become as big, they feel like it's harder to remember them. And it's harder if we don't remember them, having these breakthroughs, these successes, that we don't actually feel like we're going anywhere. And what can end up happening is that comparison and doubt and judgment kind of like come flooding in. And we start to get shook and we start to get restless and we start to doubt ourselves. And I can speak for myself over the past few years. Excuse me. That's something that I've been working with. That has been my work. In the work that I've done with my spiritual mentor, and the work that I've done in all of the programs I've been taking, in this personal development work. I mean, to be honest, these past 5 years, there has not been a day that has gone by where I have not studied for at least an hour and tapped in to do the work. And that's not including the practice. That's not including the practice. That's just listening to modules. That's just being in coaching sessions. That's just healing. That's not my own personal practice of morning pages, meditation, movement, embodiment, sharing circles, where I get to speak vulnerably, and share and actually integrate what I learn. Like, is the key, because if you don't integrate it, like it doesn't land as deeply. And so I guess I'm coming today to record to kind of reflect on all that and sit with myself, truly sit with my wild ass self, my wild ass soul, and truly just notice that the things that I set out to do, which are finding myself, like I went on this journey of finding myself, and the people that find me are on that journey of finding themselves, kind of like the hero's journey, the classic Joseph Campbell hero's journey of finding yourself, the alchemist, like home and back again, Frodo. And for me, I'm finding more of that in the things that I love, in the way that I love, in the honesty and the communication that I have, in the integrity that I try to bring to my life, like in the core values, like stuff like that. Like it really has shined through, and I guess I'm just pausing and having a moment of reflection and remembering that, because I think it's really important to do that. It's because if you don't, and I don't know if any of you believe in human design or astrology or things like that. So I follow human design. I am a 1-3 projector, splenic projector, and a big part of my patterning, like my signature, is success. And it's truly like noticing my successes and sitting with them and acknowledging them, even if they're small, even if they And often they won't look like what we think that they will look like. That's a big one, right? Like they never look like what we think they look like. They look different. They will always kind of look different, but that doesn't make them any less successful. And I really wanted to highlight that, like that for myself, because that's how I move forward and that's how I keep receiving and opening the doors to receive so that I can keep on discovering as I change too. Like, because we're all changing all the time. All the time we are changing. And, you know, I like to honor that as well. Like how am I changing? What is different about me now? Because I feel like time can slip by in movies and television and travel, even in work. I mean, I could be at my desk like putting together something or sharing or downloading or writing or posting or like recording this podcast and lose time. Like lose time because it can go by, and it's these moments of remembrance that are just the utmost importance. Like truly the utmost importance to kind of sit with and remember. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to look at them today. And yeah, I'm so excited to close out this masterclass tomorrow. It's been so fun. I forgot how much I loved holding this space of healing and transition and transformation, and it's been great. It's been great. And for anybody out there that is thinking about working with me, the things that I have coming up are the Wild Soul Sanctuary begins on October 27th. It's the space where we practice what we preach. Like we come in, it's all about the vulnerability. It's all about sharing what's on our heart. It's a practice of celebrating other women, which is hard as fuck. Like, you know, to do. Like we were not taught to do it. So it's a practice of that. It's a practice of sisterhood. It's a practice of sharing your vulnerable sides. It's a practice of finding your voice, which is invaluable. And I've been running it for 3 years. It's insane. I love it so much. And then I have Reclaiming the Heart, and that's all about the depths of the soul, the grief that we hold, the pain of the grief that we hold, and like moving with our grief as a beautiful dance and coming out on the other side with better relationships in our life with those around us, with more grace, with more space and more freedom to be our wild souls and our most authentic selves. So that is coming as well. So if you have any interest in either of those, feel free to reach out. And I have to go now because I have to go perform some improv with my short form improv team. Living that wild soul life. Thank you so much for joining. Keep it moving, everybody.